What is up, Force fam? Star Wars Dad back for another video. Today we're going to be looking at the new Sabe leader from Secrets of Power. Before we get into today's video, please make sure to check out my Patreon if you want to get more exclusive content from me. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And please make sure to sign up for the 7,000 subscriber giveaway, where I'll be giving away 3 hyperspace foil planetary bombardments to 3 lucky winners in the comments. And make sure to check out the Discord as well, as we should be having another Force Fam tournament on the Discord here in the next few weeks. And then for today's video, I will be giving away a Prestige Yaddle to 1 lucky winner in the comments. And just kind of let me know what are some cards you're really excited to use from Secrets of Power now that we've seen most of the cards from Secrets of Power and the leaders and whatnot. So Sabe is definitely a leader that has some excitement surrounding it. Its ability says when a friendly unit deals combat damage to a base, you may exhaust this leader. If you do, look at the top 2 cards of the defending player's deck and discard one of those cards and then put the other back on top. So, you know, when I first read that, it's definitely a very good ability. And I think that it's just its action ability in general, because it's free and on the attack when you do damage to the base, that's just very good because it just triggers and you can do multiple triggers at the same time, which is very cool. And I'll explain what I'm talking about here as we get into the list. But it's just, to me, it's just a disruptor, right? Like I definitely tried building this deck around that ability more, where it's like more focused on hand disruption. Obviously, I think red would have been a better choice if Force Throw was still in the format. But, and I do have a red list as well, and I can post that in the video link. I'm still working on that one. And there's other ways to build this too. I definitely think you could play like a Colossus version potentially, where you are focused on a lot of like cards that just disrupt things, where you're using like Kira and some of the new cards. But this version has felt the best to me so far with the Force. And I'll kind of explain why. So the attack, you know, when you first look at that ability, the attacking into the base part, you know, shows you that it needs to be unit focused, right? Like you need to be able to get damage on the base to maximize this ability. So you want to be low to the ground. So we have 11 turn 1 units in this deck, forced units to get the Force online. We have a lot of 3-drops. I think we have 14 3-drops, and then 8 4-drops, and then Anakin and Luke. And a decent amount of removal, and a little bit of hand disruption with Spark of Rebellion and Ahsoka, a couple. And so I started with more hand disruption at first, and have kind of made it more of like a side piece thing, where I'm kind of disrupting things to mess up the tempo for my opponent, mess up their draws, but I'm still just kind of focused on doing like similar to like a Han 1 blue Force deck does, right? Like I'm just putting pressure, pushing damage, and having a lot of card draw, so that I'm not only disrupting their tempo, but I'm getting card advantage to maximize my advantage over my opponent throughout the course of the game. And then I have subtle things like restore, good removal to take care of big threats that when they do get to play a big threat. And then the restore helps me to keep my life total in check, so that if it's an aggressive opponent that doesn't care as much about being disrupted, then I can kind of keep my own and get my life total in a place where I can turn the corner on them. So one of the things I love about this deck is, like, for example, on turn 1, like I might play a Yaddle or a Secret of Sage, right? And then let's say my opponent plays a 3/2. And I want to attack their base, but I also want to deal with their 3/2, especially if it's like a card that might get bigger, might get upgraded, or might just, maybe they're an aggressive deck and they're going to put a lot of pressure on me. So I might want to use my turn 1 play to attack into their 3/2 and get the Force online, right? So doing that to attack their unit to take it out gets the Force online, and then it can play a card like Vernestra, immediately activate it and attack into their base, and then used Sabe's ability. Falcon, of course, as well. Both of those cards are very, very good in here. Falcon, a lot of times I'll use it to get the ability online, especially if I use the ground unit to play defense or something, and just then send Falcon back to my hand and save it for later for for closing out the game, or if I need to do that again to activate the ability. So like there's some cool things like that that happen. Vernestra has been very, very good in here. Like I said, a lot of times that's a thing that comes up. I want to just take out their unit because it's a threat, remove it. If I can trade 1 for 1 or just trade favorably if I'm able to survive with the Sage or the Yaddle, and then bring out the Vernestra and attack in their base and get the Sabe's ability and start messing with their hand. And then get the Force online again to set up things like Churret, Warrior, or Shatterpoint. The card draw component combined with disrupting them is just very, very strong. Like I said, over the course of the game, that just adds up over time to where I have a good sized hand of 5, 6, 7 cards and they have 1 or 2. And then on top of that, I've been messing with the top of their deck. So that is just, that becomes very hard to overcome for your opponent over the course of the game. So playing 3 Spark Rebellions obviously just has great synergy with this ability. Like if they do get to play a strong card or have a strong card in their hand, then I'm going to use Spark Rebellion, usually around the 5 resource turn. I would say occasionally on turn 1. Most of the time I want to do it around 5 resources where I can play a 3-drop and a Spark Rebellion alongside it, or even the 6 resource turn where I play a 4-drop or a 3-drop and the Spark Rebellion alongside it, just to kind of continue that tempo of taking over the board. Ezra Bridger is very, very good in here. Again, it's an additional form of card draw, but it can do things like attack in, trigger Sabe, mess with their hand, then I can play a card off the top of my deck and then claim the initiative so that I'm getting that initiative advantage so that I can continue to disrupt their hand before they get to do anything. So for example, like claim the initiative, then next turn immediately play Spark of Rebellion to see what they have in their hand if I've been messing with their hand. And then, do the same thing. So the action ability of just being there in general and just looking at the next 2 cards of their deck and discarding one of them is very, very good. It's also, you could obviously build this as a mill deck. There's a potential for that. And you can see like in the sideboard, that's definitely part of my thinking. The sideboard is still a work in progress, obviously. But the restock and the 3 vigilance definitely have that in mind. Like I said, Falcon is just incredible in here. Just being able to pull that out, get in for that damage, and activate the ability whenever I want, send it back to my hand. That's my favorite part about Falcon, is just sending it back to my hand and not paying that resource. Because a lot of times I want to play my 4-drops, especially Ahsoka or Churret, or even Warrior if I need to gain a little bit of life. So I want to send it back. And if it gets damaged, like if it took out a unit as well, if it had to play defense, I want to send it back. Just have it in my hand always as an option of something that can attack into my opponent's base to activate that ability and mess up their hand. All the while, I'm putting pressure on their base while messing with them subtly. So that's the strategy that I've been really liking with this leader. And like I said, this is the version that I've liked the best so far with testing out 3 different versions. The Red Squadron is simply in here because it just, again, it gives me that card advantage while messing with their hand. Just an easy way to do it. Just playing a couple of them, possibly a 3rd copy in the sideboard for like control matches to get that hand advantage. Again, the disrupting of their hand is going to become more effective against control, even so, because we're going to try to get rid of those big things. Like Data Vault decks are going to be the most challenging decks, I think, for this leader, just off of my first look at playing this, just because they play 60 cards, they have more life, they're going to have bigger payoffs. Like Snoke is difficult to deal with, an Avenger. I did have to add 3 Power of the Dark Side, like a 3rd copy and a 3rd Anakin, because of cards like Snoke. You have to have an answer for that, as well as Avenger. So the 3 Shatterpoint. That's why there's only 2 Ahsoka. 3 Vernestra we've talked about, but yeah, it's just an incredible way to get in, get that damage. 3 Yoda, just the restore, the card draw, and the Force synergy, of course. 3 Power to activate Anakin, just another good solid piece of removal, especially because of our ability to kind of see, and kind of have a good guesstimate of what our opponent's going to play before Sabe flips. And, around that 5 resource turn, Power of the Dark Side becomes incredibly effective, especially if they try to spend all the resources on a big 5-drop. Ahsoka, of course, to just disrupt their hand, a 3rd copy in the sideboard for more unit-focused decks. And that might, I might tweak that some more and put, drop one turret and put the third Ahsoka in the main. I think that's still kind of figuring out the right feel for this. But of course, it's very good because, that alongside Spark, alongside giving them cards that they don't necessarily want to see at the top of their deck, it really goes a long way in just kind of being a menace. 3 chart, of course, just to slow down ground heavy decks. It's just such a good card, and protect our leader also because it comes out a turn before. The warrior, of course, is just very, very good. Just gain that subtle life, the shield, just everything about that card is just so good. 3 Shatterpoint because our leader does not use the Force, and Shatterpoint's just better than Fell the Dragon in a Force-centered deck. 3 Anakin is one of our best pieces of removal as the game goes on and helps us to kind of get board advantage when they do play something big finally. The 1 copy of Ravel's Fall for leaders and another way to deal with big threats. 2nd copy of Ravel's Fall in the sideboard. And then Luke Skywalker also as a way to just kind of gain board advantage, remove things. Again, very similar to like a Han 1 Blue Force list in a lot of ways. The difference with the Spark and the Ahsoka is kind of being more center focused and one less hot shot. The sideboard, like I said, is a work in progress, but the restock and the vigilance are definitely going to be a part of it because the mill strategy definitely becomes effective in certain situations, more controlless, even potentially data vault decks just to kind of consistently disrupt them. And again, this is early theory crafting. Like the mill version, we might get some more cards for that, so that might be a thing. I do despise mill decks, so it's not really something that I'm like gung-ho about building because I think making someone just discard every card in their deck is just a really I don't know how to say it without without saying something vulgar, but it's just not you're not playing a card game. You're just throwing someone's cards in the trash. You're not giving them a chance to play their cards. And especially like, if there's more cards like Vigilance, like where someone has to discard 3-4 cards, that's a lot of cards that they have no control over that are just disappearing from the gameplay. And it's just not healthy. Like I couldn't stand it in Magic. I definitely understand hand disruption. I think hand disruption's fine. But mill strategies are just incredibly toxic, and it's just one person is doing their thing while the other person's not having any fun at all. Like if you thought force throw was bad, take that and times it by 10. That's what a mill strategy feels like, especially if it's a very good mill deck. Like it's just so not fun. So not a big fan of that. But there's definitely a route you could play with that, like with Satine, Cries. There's some other mill cards. You could use the Kanan and Jarrus. You could play that. You could just kind of, Kira, things like that are just like constantly messing with their hand. They can't play the cards that are in their hand. And then you're milling everything off the top. That's not the route that I wanted to take this. But this one has felt really, really good. Definitely give it a shot and play test and just kind of see for yourself. But it has felt incredibly strong. Like the ability, just that subtle ability to look at those top 2 cards and just be like, nope, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. Just get rid of the best of each 2 and get rid of their big threats so it makes it harder for them to find that big threat while you're continuing to do your thing. And it's just so seamless, right? Like I'm just attacking their base and then messing with their hand. It's not like I'm doing anything extra. I'm just playing units attacking. So I definitely think this is going to be a viable leader. I absolutely think it's going to be played a lot. I'm sure people are going to complain about it, but people complain about everything. And then the sideboard, things like Concord Dawn, for space heavy decks, I think are going to come into play. That extra copy of Fell the Dragon. The sideboard again is a mess, just trying to figure things out. When Sabe flips, it's a 3/6 on 5 with raid 1, so a 4/6 essentially. And then when it attacks, you get to look at a card in their hand, discard, and they get to draw a card. So that's where the mill strategy comes into play as well. Also a very strong ability because it's essentially your Spark of Rebellion type effect or your Brazine type effect. And then you combine that with things. That's where you like combining things with like Pillage in the red version. It could be very good. Like I said, the red version felt off. Still need to work on that some more. Doesn't mean that it's not very possible. Just means I haven't quite figured it out myself yet. I haven't spent enough time on it because I was just enjoying this version better because I just wanted to have the blue removal and the restore effects because I just feel like that makes the deck more well-rounded against a multitude of opponents. Whereas the red version, like, probably is going to struggle against aggro, and Sabine gets so much more help from this set for some reason. So Sabine is going to be like nutty. Like, so I don't know how well a discard strategy focused deck is going to do against Sabine before rotation. So I think this version right here, though, can hold its own against Sabine. So just something to keep in mind. But yeah, this is kind of my early draft of this deck. Again, it's felt great in testing, but would love to hear where you guys are at. And I would love to hear how you're building around this leader, because I'm sure there are other ways to build. And I'd love to hear other people's ideas and different cards and different, lines of play. But as always, y'all have a good one and peace out.